Miss McGillen, my name's Stephen Claythorne. I believe you're a collector of mysteries.
What? I'm sorry, I've only just this second woken up.
We're likely to get into all sorts of tangles if we play questions and answers, so with your permission, I'll just begin at the beginning.
But before you do, if this is some tale about a missing hymn book, then it's a bit early in the morning.
It's murder, Miss McGillen. Cold, clinical, and calculated. And it took place last night at my home in Oxfordshire. The midday papers will be full of it. What they won't explain, what no one can explain, is how the killer evaporated into thin air, right in front of everyone's eyes. Some miracles you don't want to believe in.
I'll get some coffee on.
I don't know if you're familiar with the popular novelist Emma Lazarus, widely referred to in publishing circles as the Queen of Horror.
She wrote all those pukey stories about little towns in Arizona where everyone gets their flesh ripped off after the devil has sex with a lawnmower.
My mother-in-law, for my sins, a lady of rather florid style and ghoulish imagination. Traits not shared mercifully by her daughter Lorna. How sweet and sensitive a soulmate is in her. I never knew Lorna's father. He died in his 30s. When her mother remarried, an American hairstylist named Tom Teresi, they moved to California. We barely saw them from one year to the next. Till one morning a couple of weeks ago, we found ourselves with 3 house guests at the rectory. Emma, Tom, and this minder character of theirs, Mr. Drucker. I won't say we got on like a house on fire. For the most part, I avoided her company, which wasn't hard. Our parish is small, but the demands it makes on my time are considerable.
Your God is no more a reality than the tooth fairy we believed in as children.
You excuse me, I have some work to catch up on.
The only gods that exist are ourselves. We are the gods of our own.
Thus my absence last night, of all nights. All Hallows Eve. I'd been summoned to the bishops for a little diocesan pep talk. Lorna, her mother, and stepfather were returning home from a costume party and dance at Meppersley Manor, about 10 miles down the road. It was just gone midnight.
How's the migraine?
Still zigging and zagging. Like a rat stewing on my optic nerve. I hope your friends weren't offended. We had to peel off early. 4 hours of dancing skeletons, and I was just about spooked out for the... What is it? He's still there. Can you believe the staying power?
Now that we got this leash in our tail back home, follow you halfway around the world, that's not a fan. That's a serious piece of brain damage.
Because he sends me love letters, Hal, that tell me I'm a living goddess. The wretch is harmless. What's he gonna do, serenade me to death? Now, come on. You gonna do the honors before we all turn in? Tom, come on. Souvenir for the album.
One more for the hell of it.
Oh!
That's okay. I've got it.
Thank you.
You sure we check every door and window tonight? Pit of my gut tells me something's brewing out there.
Tom?
Drop it! Bring the car to the door. Leave the keys in the ignition. Do it! Get out and back away.
What in the name of God?
Okay, put her down! Put her down!
The killer was trapped. It was naturally assumed he'd try to buy his freedom using Lorna as hostage. But then, once the door had come down, it all went strangely quiet.
I'm the one who phoned. I'm security here. There's an armed man inside with a woman who's unconscious. Are you armed?
The building was surrounded. There was no other possible way in or out. After 15 minutes, fearing the worst, they reopened the door to discover, to everyone's utter amazement, the skeleton had gone. I needn't say what effect all this had on me when I got back around 1 o'clock. By any definition of hell, this had to be it. Thank God Lorna was okay. Beyond that, the scale of the atrocity. Forgive me. I've come here a perfect stranger to burden you with my grief. While on the face of it, the whole thing's insoluble. Can a body pass through a solid stone wall? Or are we all losing our minds?
Do me a favour. I grew out of vanishing skeletons before I was into long trousers. If you're going to kill someone on Halloween, you think they'd come up with something more original than that.
Probably not even a real vicar. He's probably wearing rubber underwear. Whatever you do, if he asks you to pray...
You don't kneel in front of him with your eyes closed.
Right. Several intriguing features. I thought so. So, on the basis of striking whilst the iron's hot, it's probably not more than an hour's drive from your place.
I'm not at my place.
I'm at Adam's. We've had a very late night, and I've got a 50-minute TV special to go through, which is going to take all day. So just tell him to bugger off and stop sniffing the nail polish.
Right. No. That's great, then. I'm onto it now. Anything breaks, I'll give you a bell. I use him now and again to bounce things off. Bit of a sad character, actually. Ideas man to a conjurer. Okay. While I'm in the shower, if you fancy a nibble, be my guest.
Whatever time did we get back last night? Last thing I remember, we were in that nightclub watching a girl sing selections from Verdi's Nabucco, while two men from the audience removed her G-string with their teeth. Thought you were never going to shake the old slapper off, the way she was all over you like a rash the rest of the...
Don't judge me too harshly, Jonathan. That was a particularly lethal brand of tequila they were serving in the bar last night.
Hiya! Guess what? ATC are on 48-hour work to rule. Both my flights were grounded. Means we get our weekend back. Are you pleased?
I'm salivating into a bucket. Come on up, treasure.
3 hours in that sweatbox at JFK.
No.
To take these tights off
No,
the potato
Just for
peeler.
2 seconds, Jonathan.
Adam? Where are you? Don't I get a kiss anymore?
Sweetheart, my angel come to earth.
Oh. Who's in there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think you've met my creative consultant, Jonathan Creek, and, Bridget, who I think you were saying had to be leaving very shortly.
Frankly, I preferred this routine when Marceau did it. I mean, who is this person?
Don't be fooled by the scatty exterior. Her track record in these matters is formidable.
Ow! Oh. No. Oh. Lucky there was no paint left in them at any rate. So, if I could just run back over a couple of things. Mr. Teresi, after the murderer had come in and closed the door, there'd have been, what, about 30 seconds before anyone else went round the back of the building? So that if by any trickery he'd managed to get out any other way...
He would have set off the sensor lights at the side of the house, which didn't come on until one of the police officers ran in front of them.
Okay. Mrs. Claythorne, I know how painful this is, but you definitely remember nothing after you blacked out on the landing. Nothing that happened in this garage, no sounds or images, smells?
All I remember was when I felt myself on the thing. And I was so frightened I couldn't see his face.
Right. But when he grabbed you up in the bedroom, was there anything about this person, about his body or voice?
He's so disgusted. Things every time I couldn't. He just got and all went black.
That's been very helpful. I'm really sorry, thanks.
This place holds too many horrors. Come on. Come on.
I'll go and put the kettle on. If you want to join us once you've completed your investigations.
Where the police dog peed on the floor. They didn't find anything either. Miss McGillen, right? Hal Drucker, personal security to Emma Lazarus for 13 years. Oh, I kind of funked it last night, didn't I?
Well, I don't suppose anyone's to blame for
Listen,
what...
I knew the guy was wacko when I told her.
Guy, Mr. Drucker?
Started about a year ago with a mushy fan mail. 3 or 4 a week. Never give a name, just signed himself your devoted disciple always. Pretty soon it's getting unhealthy. The guy's staking out her home. Just watching and staring. I try to get near him and he's gone, just like a jackrabbit. So next thing, he shows up here. England. I mean, come on, this is sick. You don't want to know what this individual's capable of. Well, last night we found out. And you want my honest opinion, what turns a man's brain like that? If we're talking who's to blame for the murder of Emma Lazarus? Sick breeds sick, Miss McGillen. And the sooner we face up to that, the sooner we can pull our society out of the sewer.
So I don't know, the frame's slightly warped up the top here. I turned away to go and get a hammer, and that's when he must have come in and I felt this sudden raw pain like he'd sliced into a nerve or something.
This sounds familiar.
Knocked me out cold. I didn't even hear the gunshot.
There's no sign of anything in the background, but then it's not always obvious. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind hanging on to these if that's okay.
No, it's not okay. The last pictures of my mother alive, they don't leave this house.
Sorry, I should...
To my dying day, I'll be haunted by a feeling of irresponsibility. As if somehow I should have known. I should have been there to do something.
He's a happy bunny.
Oh, it's Gary Lobo. He was helping my wife with her new book.
I thought she always wrote alone.
It wasn't a novel this time. She was working on her autobiography. Or more accurately, autobiographies.
Say again?
An account of her many lives. From High Priestess of the Aztec Empire through her other existences as a courtesan to King Charles I, a Russian countess, and a Zulu at Rook's Drift. Right up to present day.
So what are you telling me? Emma Lazarus believed in reincarnation?
A field in which Mr. Lobo claimed to have specialist knowledge.
Through a process of hypnoanalysis, flotation therapy, and sensory deprivation, I will penetrate the shell of your conscious mind to unlock the soul and all its secrets that reside within.
We all look for ways to explain the unexplainable. Emma's life, ideology hardly met with my approval, but wherever she is now, let's trust she's at peace.
Definitely. Well, I think I have everything I need. Tell you what I'm going to do. Run this past my associate and be in touch with you first thing tomorrow morning. I'll see myself out. He steps inside the garage, he drops her on the floor. He closes the door. They open the door. Where the hell's he gone? Certainly not through 9 inches of Cotswold stone or a concrete floor. Plus, you've got your sensor lights all the way round. So if he had got out, he'd have triggered them up. Let me know if I'm boring you, by the way.
You're not boring me.
Jonathan, we're looking at a scenario here for which there is absolutely no conceivable explanation.
There's always an explanation. You've just got to think round corners. Don't only see what you're meant to see. What do you see when you watch this trick? A young girl selected at random from the audience, invited to have a go on the trampoline. She starts bouncing up and down. Higher and higher. Eventually explodes in a puff of smoke. Where'd she go? First of all, she's not a member of the audience. She's an Armenian gymnast.
Oh, great. So that's a cheat for a start.
Of course it is. The whole thing's a cheat. After she's been up and down a few times, another tab comes in, downstage. Black velvet to match the backdrop so you can't see it's there. Tiny smoke charge along the bottom set off. To mask her, she disappears behind the drape. She grabs hold of a bar and hangs on as the bar and the tab are flown back up. Adam Klaus gets a standing ovation.
What's this? The cabinet where she miraculously reappears?
No, that's my tea, thank you.
Tea? Who eats Weetabix for their tea?
Very effective, you should try it.
Oh, yes. I'll bet you're little Mr. Regular, aren't you? Like clockwork with you, is it? Every morning on the dot at 7.
Between 7 and 7:30?
Oh, I'll bet you do too. Why doesn't that surprise me for a single second?
Look, if you've got a problem in that department, there's no reason to take it out
Who's
on me.
got a problem? Happens when it happens. Don't have to set my watch by it.
You've got no worries, Sam.
None whatsoever.
So when this photo was taken, it's definitely her husband, Teresi, inside the costume.
Shortly before, the killer got in through the French windows and karated him from behind to switch places.
Hmm.
And I didn't come here for a lecture on bowel frequency, as it happens.
But the paint tins were empty.
What?
The paint tins that you knocked off that shelf were all virtually empty, you said.
So, you'll be in the theatre all day tomorrow, in case I want to drop by after I've paid this Mr. Lobo a visit.
Right. And don't fall for any of his phony sales talk.
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, come on. It's prime girly material, isn't it? Reincarnation. Falls into the same category of persuasive bollocks as astrology. He conned Emma Lazarus into believing it, don't let him con you.
Oh, thanks ever so much. Think I'd swallow all that garbage about delving back into past lives? Credit me with a bit of common sense.
As your body drifts deeper, let yourself go deeper. Into the very nucleus of your being. We're going to increase the temperatures now. The waters will dissolve into a void of darkness. As slowly you regress back to the soft, warm moistness of the womb. Beyond the moment of birth,
I don't think I'll be spending the morning in a tank of boiling hot ink again in a hurry. I feel like a poached octopus.
you know, personally, I found her novels disturbing yet compelling when she writes, for example, of a mutant fetus that strangles young girl with its umbilical cord. The metaphor is obvious. Yet to mine, the vilest seams of obscenity to get to the core of the human condition.
And making wads of money, selling loads of tacky books, didn't really come into it. What the hell is this?
Your order, madam. The poached octopus.
Poached octopus? Have you gone stark staring bonkers?
If there's been a mistake, my sincerest apologies. It's no problem. I'll have it returned and you can place another order.
No, all right. Go on, then. Might as well leave it now that it's here, I suppose. So, how long had you known Emma Lazarus? 18 months? Popping back and forth to her place in the States. The last time you saw her here was when?
Monday afternoon. She came by to discuss the book. We talked about life, death, mainly death. As she was leaving, I said I'd see her again in a week's time. She just turned, smiled, a rather weak smile, but said nothing. Now you're going to think it really odd that I say this.
Say what?
I've got the weirdest feeling. She didn't expect to be alive in a week's time.
Spooky stuff. So So you reckon she knew her days were numbered?
And I reckon she knew who it was that was planning to kill her. Police are scouring the country for this stalker that kept following her around, but I don't know. It's a bit too glaringly obvious for my money. None of which gets us any further with the real question. How did Mr. Skeleton Suit disappear from that garage?
Oh, that's the easy bit.
Oh, give me a break. You can't possibly have worked that out, and you haven't even been there.
If everything you've told me is correct, there's only one way it could have happened.
The empty paint tins.
Precisely. And I think you said something about a hacksaw?
Right. So?
Well, to get to the root of this problem, you've got to turn your entire concept of what happened on its head.
Jonathan? Hi, how are you?
Oh, hi.
Bridget.
Bridget. That's right.
You don't remember, do you? You and me in the bath together yesterday morning?
Of course. Absolutely. How you doing? You all right?
Is Adam in his dressing room?
Through that door. Just follow the signs. Story and a half there. She's got her claws into Adam, but he doesn't want to know because...
You want a word for it? Try extortion. She stitched me up, Jonathan. You give someone a bed for the night out of the kindness of your heart. Next thing, she's having you for breakfast.
When you say extortion, she doesn't want money.
Correct, Jonathan. She does not want money. It's far more blood-curdling than that. She wants to sing. In my show. Her own spot, 15 minutes every night. Operatic arias.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Well, understand this, Jonathan. A nightclub dancer with less than zero talent as a vocalist wants me to showcase her work on our forthcoming tour. Well, she's going to the papers with details of our little one-night stand together. In the absence of photographic evidence, she's proposing to give them drawings.
You're not serious. Oh, I have to say she's caught a certain essence of you here. What are you going to do?
Pay her off. That's all we can do. She'll have a price. Just don't bid too high too soon.
Oh, I see. It's down to me to clear up this mess, is it?
A simple dematerialization, Jonathan. I want her out of my life.
£5,000, Bridget.
What, are you deaf or something?
6,000.
I'm not interested. Nathan, will you leave that and do your homework? He loves anything with revolving blades.
Look, I'm authorised to go up to £10,000. Look, I know, Adam. If you're pushing too far, he'll just call your bluff.
You don't get it, do you? I don't want money. I want a chance to get out of the gutter, to perform the music that I love. And where have those shoes gone? I know I took them off in here last night. Where have they disappeared to?
Shoes? That's absolutely right. Where did they go to?
What? Nathan, will you come away from that?
Yes, I'm afraid I've rather lost the plot on this now. Who breaks open a coffin in the middle of the night to remove the head of a dead body? The service will go ahead with tomorrow as planned. The funeral will clearly now have to wait.
You say we just missed your wife, Mr. Claythorne?
I'm afraid. She goes visiting parishioners on a Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully get her mind off events here. I think you'll find her at Mr. Snetterton's still. Old chap's 91 and just out of hospital.
Snetterton?
Yes, you see the little bungalow that backs onto the foot of our garden?
Mrs. Claythorne, I'm terribly sorry if it's inconvenient to talk to you here.
No, no, do come in.
I hope we're not disturbing Mr. Snetterton. Only there were a couple of points Jonathan and I wanted to go.
You won't disturb Mr. Snetterton, I'm afraid. He passed away just a few minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
He was over 90. His heart had been gradually running out of steam.
And he'd only this morning come out of hospital, didn't your husband say?
Yeah, ironically, yes, for some other minor operation. They just kept him in overnight.
Having a wart removed, it says here.
It's just... Before he died, there was something he said about the other night when... about 12:30, he heard a noise outside the window. He looked out and saw a skeleton climbing over the back fence into his garden. He said it ran out onto the road and then away down towards the river.
So, I wonder when you actually figured the whole thing out. While you were in the bath? Oh, no. You'd have had other things on your mind then. On the toilet. Seems to be quite a productive place for you. I know. You told me. It was all Adam's mad idea, and you didn't enjoy being squashed up against her naked body one little bit. What man would?
The Weetabix didn't work then.
I beg your pardon.
How many days is it now? 3 or 4?
Just pour the tea. Anyway, look, come on. I've admitted defeat. Let's get on with it. The bit you enjoy, treating me like a moron.
No. The bit where you enjoy making me feel like I'm treating you like a moron. You're perfectly capable of reasoning it out for yourself. Only you'd stop taking things at face value. What have we got? Someone puts on a skeleton costume, goes upstairs and shoots Emma Lazarus. Her daughter, Lorna, appears, is grabbed by the killer and knocked unconscious on the landing. All this is verified by our bodyguard, Mr. Drucker. Drucker goes to get the car out, and he and Teresi watch as the skeleton carries Lorna into the garage and closes the door. Police arrive, and within seconds the garage is surrounded. A solid, stone-walled garage. No way could anyone possibly get out. What's our first conclusion?
That he didn't get out.
So when they open the garage door, the skeleton...
Must have still been in there.
Good.
But it wasn't in there. Where can it go? In a completely empty room with absolutely no hiding place of any kind.
No hiding place except...
The paint tins. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jonathan. What level of surrealism are we operating on here?
You see, this is where you and everyone else give up. You're making the big mistake of sticking to what's likely instead of what's logical.
So how in God's name do you fit a body into a load of paint tins? Short of chopping it up into bits, I think it's safe to... What? What are you telling me now?
How many people walked into that garage?
2.
Walked into that garage.
One, with one over his shoulder.
And how much of the one over his shoulder did anyone see? A body in a long black witch's dress? A white waist-length wig hanging down so it completely covered her head?
But we know it was Lorna, because she was in there when they opened the... You are jesting. She was the skeleton. And what you're saying, the body was some sort of dummy?
To pull off a trick this good, you'd have to go to a hell of a lot of trouble. Lorna Claythorne and the killer had to be in on it together. When she made a break for it, and he knocked her out, all a carefully choreographed fake, she wasn't unconscious at all.
Bring the car to the door. Leave the keys in the ignition. Do it!
And when the key witness, Mr. Drucker, was ordered to go out and get the car, that's when they pulled the switch. Little electronic mouthpiece distorts the voice so much it could be anyone. So that when the skeleton appears outside the front door, it's now Lorna inside. And what we thought was Lorna's body is just a foam rubber shape with her dress and shoes and wig on. Once the door's closed, the costume comes off. She puts her own gear back on. Now she's got a foam rubber body and a skeleton suit to dispose of. Hacksaw's nice and handy. She cuts it all up into bits. Hides my way out of sight. Figuring correctly that people are hardly going to open the paint tin to look for a murderer. Next morning, no one's about. The evidence is removed and disposed of, leaving nothing behind but a few rubber crumbs.
They were in it together. Lorna and who?
It's a silly detail, but I don't know, you actually examine it. A person comes in from outside in the rain, knocks out Emma Lazarus's husband when his back is turned, puts on his skeleton costume. I mean, all right, he could have put it on over his own clothes, but what about his shoes? The costume's already got a pair of boots built into it. You couldn't get them on over your own shoes. You'd have to take them off first, so where do they go?
Still can't credit it. Where she manufactured all those tears, all that grief. How do people do that? Certainly took me in. Next question. How the hell do you nail her? She's obviously a very clever cookie.
Maybe. Maybe not as clever as we think.
Meaning what?
Well, that story she spun us this afternoon. The bloke looking out of his window, seeing the killer run away through his back garden.
Obviously complete gobshite to keep us off the scent.
Old guy just popped it. She can make him say whatever she liked. I've only got her word for it. Except, of course...
What?
I don't know, it might be worth you giving that hospital a ring in the morning. Have a word with the doctor who removed his wart.
Well, she certainly sorted out my problem last night. Talk about putting Weetabix out of business.
What about the hospital? Did you get any joy of Mr. Snetterton's wart? Great, which is just as we thought. Now, are you sitting down? I've been taking this thing apart all night, trying to put it back together, and finding it won't go. And I think I finally worked out why.
Very moving. Big shame about memorial services, I suppose. The deceased can't be there to hear it. To hear just how much she was adored by all her family and friends.
You've intimated you've made some sort of progress. What exactly did you mean?
Yes, if we could go somewhere else to talk, without turning this into a national press briefing. If you've got anything stronger than communion wine in there, I'll have it standing by. I'm sorry, Mrs. Claythorne, we know. We know you and the killer planned it together. But it was you in that costume coming out of the house, and the body was just a lump of foam that you
cut up and hid away.
I beg your pardon? What kind of preposterous accusation?
It's not easy listening, Mr. Claythorne, I know. But we do have evidence that your wife has been lying to us.
The old gentleman you visited yesterday, Mr. Snetterton, you said that before he died, he talked about a figure in a skeleton suit running away through his garden on the night of the murder.
I suppose you're going to say I invented that now.
You knew that Mr. Snetterton had been to hospital the day before to have a wart removed. I wonder if you knew which part of his anatomy that wart was on. A glance at the letter on the hall table might have given you a clue. It was on his vocal cords, Mrs. Claythorne.
And according to the specialist I spoke to this morning, there's no way he could have got his voice back to be able to talk to you less than 24 hours after laser treatment.
He'd already passed away before I got there. I suppose when I saw you coming up the path, I just thought maybe I could... Oh, God, forgive me.
Forgive you both, Mrs. Claythorne. You and your stepfather.
Tell me this is some baseless fabrication.
No one came through those windows. No one knocked you out. No one else put on your costume. Because it was you that went upstairs, shot your wife, and staged this elaborate piece of theatre with your stepdaughter.
Of course, the idea was for Lorna to drive away in the car, so she'd eventually be found on her own in the back. When that all went wrong,
You had to improvise. Problem with the garage was it left us with an impossible vanishing act, which had never been part of the plan.
In God's name, Lorna, how could the two of you conceive anything so monstrous?
Yes, I suspect the answer to that is they didn't. A complex and grisly scenario like this, spawned by the demonic brains of a vicar's wife and a part-time hairdresser. I'd say this has got more in common with that little bedtime story I was reading last night. In short, this entire nasty crime has the classic stamp of Emma Lazarus all over it.
And if we're right about that, there's only one fairly dramatic interpretation to be placed on what happened.
Which is where we get into a real ethical nightmare, isn't it, Mr. Teresi, when we talk about euthanasia. She had no fear of death. It was just a stepping stone to another existence. And Gary Lobo was convinced she'd seen it coming. Wonder why?
no one but Lorna and I knew just how ill she was. How many months it would be. How much longer she could go on passing off the bad migraines. A long, excruciating exit. Wasn't Emma's style. She'd lived her life in Technicolor. How could her death be anything less than gloriously, tastelessly Gothic? Of course, there were considerable benefits to dressing it all up as a murder. Life insurance, the advance on her next 3 novels. No, Miss Magellan. I can't look back with any pride on what we did. To say that every last detail was her invention, that she wore down our objections with the force of her titanic personality, is no defense at all. I simply thank God that her suffering's over.
Well, pick the ethical bones out of that one. I'm sorry my spiritual equanimity seems to have deserted me all of a sudden. For some unfathomable reason.
Oh, Stephen, I don't know. Help me!
May I respectfully ask a question? To what possible end was the atrocity of the night before last committed? And by whom?
What do we think? A final perverse act of love by someone who couldn't bear never to set eyes on her again. You were the one who said it, Mr. Drucker. Sick breeds sick.
Excuse me, sir. Could you just take your luggage for takeoff? Your luggage. You just put it in here, sir. Thank you.
Never mind your next book, Madeline. I can smell movie rights with this one. And if you're looking for names with muscle in the motion picture industry, I can put you in touch with Hollywood's finest.
Yes, I think I've had enough of Californian culture for a bit. Thanks all the same.
Oh, you arrogant little witch. Not here. She can't do this to me. Jonathan.
I went as high as you said and then doubled it. She won't be bought, Adam. There's no other way. You're going to have to put her in the show.
She'll kill me. Either way, I'm dead.
1 second.
What did you say?
Just that she'd been used. That all men are bastards. It would do her singing career no good at all to be associated with such an odiously shallow slime ball. That she'd be better off screwing you for every penny she could get, and the cheque would be in the post.
Do you know what I love about her, Jonathan? She's such a terrific liar.